right, guys, Cody Meyer here. We are out throwing the Ned Rig today with the Tackle Warehouse crew. This is one of my favorite techniques to throw. This is something I've been throwing the last couple years, and it flat out catches them. We got a new bait today. This is a Yamamoto Senko floater. This is the new Ned Rig bait that just got released, and I want to show you guys everything you need to know about throwing the Ned Rig, how, where, why, and why it is so deadly. We're out here, we're gonna catch some big ones today. What do you need to throw it with, how you're gonna throw it, and what does it catch? Look at this thing, big old smallmouth in the current here. This is one of the baits that last couple years have been so popular by tournament anglers. Let's see here, this thing has a mind of its own. Hey, it's a big one. Look at the size of this dude. You know, the Ned Rig catches them, but it catches big ones because it replicates so many different kinds of bait fish, crawdads and goby and perch, everything. It's just something so natural. Like I said, it catches a lot of them, catches big ones. And today, you are gonna learn how to throw the Ned Rig, why I love throwing it. Some people don't, but you're gonna want to after this. And the new one from Yamamoto, you guys, this thing is incredible. Check that out. New one from Yamamoto. Here we go. Let me get into the details. What's up, everybody? Cody Meyer here with the crew from tacklewarehouse.com, and we are talking fishing the Ned Rig. So a lot of people ask, hey, what is the Ned Rig? And it's very basic. This is an owner blockhead. You're gonna have a little jig head like this and a small bait, you know, something that's short, a little bit stocky. This is, like I say, the 3-inch Yamamoto Senko floater. So it's just a 3-inch bait. And what this is a very finesse technique. This has been one of the most popular techniques over the last couple of years across the country. Believe it or not, some people hate it, some people love it. I personally love it. You know why? Because for one, it gets a ton of bites, but it's so natural. So, you know, whether you're fishing for smallmouth, spotted bass, largemouth, this is something that I'm always gonna have tied on when, you know, maybe there's high pressure out there. The fishing is really tough. This is something that I can always go to and catch a lot of fish. And what it's gonna do, you're gonna throw it out there on a lighter line. You know, this is gonna be a lighter line that I always prefer. You're gonna throw it out, you're gonna let it hit the bottom. It's gonna float, stand up straight like this. It's just gonna hop along the bottom. This is gonna mimic, you know, crawdads, little bluegill, goby. And I think most people think of the Ned Rig as strictly smallmouth. Definitely not the case, guys. I've caught some huge largemouth in California, some giant spotted bass at Lake Lanier across the country. Just something that I rely on as a tournament angler to get a lot of bites. Very easy to fish, and Yamamoto has nailed it with this dude here. They're the king of soft plastics. Let's get out on the water. Let me show you how I fish it. You know, it's so important to have that light rod just to make that cast. You know, the rod's really gonna load up and shoot that bait out there. You know, like I mentioned before, you have too stiff of a rod, you're not gonna be able to make that really long cast. And I feel like that's extremely important when you're fishing the Ned Rig, just to, you know, get maximum distance out of that thing, get to where the fish are, and keep that bait in the strike zone. You know, today we're fishing, you know, on a lot of current right now. We're fishing for some big smallmouth. So you're gonna have to make that long cast so you can get the right drift. But that rod is so important, the braid to fluorocarbon as well, just so you can really shoot that bait out there. You know, you're talking 3/16 of an ounce, you know, a floating little Ned Senko, so it's not a real heavy bait. You want to get it out there, get it down to where the fish are, and then properly work it. Yep, let that bait sink down. So how I fish this Ned Rig is going to be really simple. There's going to be two ways. You know, one, I'm just gonna slowly hop the bait on the bottom. You know, just hop it up, let it fall. Hop it up a couple times, let it fall, you know, so I'm not gonna make real erratic jerks or anything like that. I'm just gonna hop this bait on the bottom, just keeping it really natural, making it look like a little bluegill, you know, looking around, crawdad, trying to get away, or goby. Or the other way is gonna be a slow drag. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna cast it out there, let that bait hit the bottom, and just slowly drag the bait across the bottom. So you're either gonna slowly hop it or you're gonna do a slow drag. And the slow drag is gonna be pretty easy. You know, not a lot of movement with the tip. Just slowly drag it, keeping that bait on the bottom. You know, reel up the slack, drag it around, nice and slow. And that's just gonna keep that thing on the bottom, glued to the bottom, where the hopping is gonna, you know, have a little bit more action. Both ways work really good. You know, I would say I probably split, you know, both the ways to fish it 50-50. I'm gonna do both, and both of them are gonna work, you know. And as far as the hook sets, you don't need a real hard hook set. You know, you're throwing a light line, a light wire hook, you're just gonna kind of load into them. A really light hook set is just necessary. Just kind of pin them and use the rod to fight the fish with that light line, and definitely a good drag. You know, we're throwing a Daiwa Surte here is gonna be needed. The whole combination is all you need for a Ned rig. Just you know, a 7-foot medium to a medium light rod, something light, some light line, a reel with good drag, and just let that Ned rig go to work. You know, when you're in an area that's gin clear, fish are really pressured, you know, this is something that you're gonna have to pick up. This is gonna be a go-to bait for me to always help me catch more fish. Oh man, a little smallmouth. Not a big one, but a little Ned Rig smallmouth. You know, I was just hopping it on the bottom there. We're spot lock. We're kind of doing both. We're dragging and we're hopping, fishing in some current. But I mean, that thing is so deadly. It's always catching them, man. I mean, like I say, when it's really, really tough out, this is what I always go to. That is not a big one, but we pull up, make a cast, we catch one, and this is the best Ned Rig bait I've ever fished. I mean, this thing, it's easy to rig, it's easy to fish, and floats, it's perfect. It's easy to cast. More importantly, the fish love it. Yamamoto colors. Fishing the Ned Rig, when and where, I've had people ask me before, this is one of those baits, truly guys, don't overthink it. You need to throw it. It's good in the winter, spring, summer, fall. It flat out works. It's always gonna get bites. I mean, it's something that I always have in my boat. Every tournament in the last 4, 5, 6 years that I've fished this bait, I've had this thing tied on, I've pulled it out, usually sometimes throughout the day. Even in Florida, it's something you don't need to overthink. You just need to throw it. You know, and really it just depends on where those fish are at. You know, if the fish are up, they're spawning, this is an excellent bait in the spring, around the spawn. You know, they're not really wanting to eat something big. You catch a lot of big fish on the Ned Rig just going down the bait when they move up the spawn. You know, going into summertime, they get out, they get around some brush piles. This is a bait I like throwing around some hard structure, you know, a lot of rock or gravel, something like that with a little bit of mixed grass. You know, going into the fall, another time, you know, that's the one time I might change up some colors, go away from the green pumpkin a little bit to more shad patterns. And then going into wintertime, it's definitely deadly then. The fish they're not biting as good usually, their metabolism slows down, and this is something you can bring by and catch them. So when I'm throwing the Ned Rig, I'm always gonna be throwing a spinning rod and a spinning reel. And what I personally like is a 7-foot to maybe a 7.4 rod. You know, I like a medium light to a medium. So This is gonna allow you to cast the bait really far. You know, if you have too stiff of a rod, you're gonna lose distance on that cast. So a medium light to a medium rod is gonna really load well. You're gonna cast it a long ways. I like light line, you know, a 7 to an 8-pound test. Fluorocarbon here. I still go with the braided line as well, you know, a 10-pound braid, and a bigger spinning reel like a 3000. You know, the rod I'm using today, this is a Daiwa Tattoo Elite. This is a 7-foot rod that I designed for finesse fishing and drop shotting, and like I say, it's a medium light. I'm going to a 7-pound fluorocarbon here. This is a J Fluoro Samurai, and a 10-pound chartreuse braid. This is J Braid Grand. Like I say, it's a chartreuse color, and a Daiwa Surte reel. You know, this combination here for me, you're gonna be able to cast this bait really far, land a lot of fish, and properly fish the bait while you're throwing the Ned Rig. If you guys like this video, make sure you guys like, share, tag a friend. Stay tuned, more great stuff is coming. We're gonna catch some more fish, some big ones too.